All right, let's get into one of history's most compelling and honestly, most consequential family dramas. This is a story straight out of the book of Genesis, and it's got everything. Love, deception, rivalry, and it all kicks off with a long journey and a single fateful encounter at a well.
So let me just start by asking you this. How long would you be willing to wait for the person you truly love? A year? 5 years? I mean, really think about it. Because that question, it's the very heart of this story. It's all about a love so powerful that an unbelievable sacrifice felt like almost nothing at all.
Okay, so picture this. Our main character, a man named Jacob, shows up in this distant land in the east after a seriously long trip. He stumbles upon a well out in a field, the central hub of life back then, where a few flocks of sheep are just hanging out, waiting. It's right here, in this ordinary place, that his entire life is about to take an extraordinary turn.
So he's chatting with the shepherds, and then he sees her, Rachel. She's coming over the hill with her father's sheep. Now, the other shepherds had just told Jacob they couldn't water their flocks because they had to wait for everyone to show up to move this massive stone covering the well. But the second Jacob lays eyes on Rachel, something just clicks. He walks right over, and with this incredible show of strength, he rolls that huge stone away all by himself and starts watering his uncle's flock. This is way more than just being helpful. This is a statement.
And then we get this incredibly raw, powerful moment. After this big feat of strength, he goes over and kisses his cousin Rachel, and is just so overwhelmed with emotion that he breaks down crying. I mean, can you imagine the relief, the joy? He's a total stranger in a strange land. He's just finished this long, dangerous journey, and in this one moment, he's found not only his family, but the person who's going to define the rest of his life.
So Jacob gets welcomed into the home of his uncle, Laban. Fast forward about a month, and Laban, who's always looking for an angle, comes to him and says, "Look, just because you're my nephew, you shouldn't be working for me for free. Tell me, what do you want for wages?" And this question just opens the door for Jacob to make a counteroffer, not for money, but for something he considers way, way more valuable.
You see, Laban had 2 daughters, and the contrast between them is really at the center of this whole drama. There was the older daughter, Leah, who is described as having tender eyes, which a lot of people think meant they were weak or maybe just not very striking. But then there was Rachel. The text is crystal clear. She was beautiful and well-favored. There was no contest. Jacob's heart was completely 100% set on Rachel. So when Laban asks him what he wants for his wages, Jacob lays out his incredible offer. He says, "I will serve you for 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter." 7 years. Think about that. That is a massive chunk of his life, his youth, his hard labor, all of it on the table as a bride price. And of course, Laban, seeing a fantastic deal for himself, agrees on the spot. And this right here, it might be one of the most romantic lines ever written. For Jacob, those 7 years of intense, back-breaking work just flew by. They felt like just a few days. Why? Because his love for Rachel was so deep, and he was so laser-focused on the prize at the end. The future he imagined made the present sacrifice feel totally weightless. Okay, so now we get to the big turning point of the whole story. The 7 years of labor are done. They're over. Jacob, who has held up his end of the bargain perfectly, goes to Laban and says, "All right, my time is up. Give me my wife." So a huge wedding feast is prepared. The moment Jacob has been dreaming of for 7 long years is finally here. The debt was paid in full. The long, patient wait was finally over. By all accounts, Jacob's reward was just hours away. You can just feel the anticipation building, can't you?
And Laban, he throws this giant party. I mean, he invites everyone from the whole community. From the outside, everything looks perfect. It's this huge, joyous celebration for a wedding that has literally been 7 years in the making.
Then as night falls, under the cover of darkness and all the celebration, Laban himself walks his daughter to the bridal tent and presents her to Jacob. The promise, it seems, is finally being fulfilled. But this is where the entire story hinges on one single, devastating act of deception. In the dark, probably behind a thick veil, Jacob thinks he's finally with Rachel, the woman he's worked so long and hard for. But is he? And then the sun comes up. The morning light streams into the tent, and the truth is revealed. The woman next to him, it isn't Rachel. It's Leah, her older sister. The 7-year labor of love has ended in a shocking, unbelievable act of betrayal.
That initial shock, well, it turns to pure fury, and fast. Jacob immediately goes to confront his uncle, the man who is now his father-in-law, thanks to the ultimate bait and switch.
You can just feel the raw anger, the sense of profound injustice in Jacob's words. He fulfilled his contract down to the last day, only to be completely cheated at the finish line. He'd been scammed.
And Laban's response? It's just infuriating. He's totally calm. He doesn't even apologize. Nope. Instead, he hides behind tradition, saying, oh, it's just not done in our country to marry off the younger daughter before the firstborn. We'll never know if that was a real custom or just a convenient excuse, but then, without missing a beat, he pitches a whole new deal.
And check out how cunning this is. Laban tells him, look, just finish out this first bridal week with Leah, and then I'll give you Rachel too, in exchange for another 7 years of work. And Jacob, he's trapped. His love for Rachel is just that strong, so he agrees. Within a single week, he's a husband to 2 sisters, and his bride price has now doubled to a staggering 14 years.
And that brings us to the next chapter. The epic love story has now curdled into this deeply complicated, painful home life. Jacob has the wife he wanted, but he also has the one he didn't. His heart belongs to only one of them, and that favoritism creates a household just simmering with rivalry and heartache.
And here's the tragic irony in their situation. The text is blunt. It says Leah was despised or unloved. But maybe in response to that suffering, she's the one who's able to have children. Meanwhile, Rachel, the beloved, favorite wife, can't conceive. So the unloved wife starts building the family, while the loved wife is left grieving her empty arms. You can literally track Leah's heartbreak in the names she gives her first 4 sons. Each name is just a cry for her husband's love. Reuben means see, a son, as in maybe now Jacob will finally see me. Simeon, because God has heard that she's unloved. With her third, Levi, she's desperately hoping that now her husband will become attached to her. It's only with her 4th son, Judah, that you see a tiny shift, a note of praise, maybe as she starts to turn from seeking her husband's approval to finding her worth somewhere else.
So that's what we're left with. A family that started with this epic love story, but was built on a foundation of cruel deception and poisoned by bitter rivalry. It is messy, it's painful, and it is so deeply human. And the question this all leaves us with is a big one. From a beginning this broken and conflicted, what kind of legacy could possibly be built? Well, the answer to that question would literally go on to shape the course of history.